blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God hath done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God hath done. Are you ever burdened with the load of care? Does the cross seem heavy you are called to bear? Count your many blessings, every doubt will fly, and you will be singing as the days go by. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God hath done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God hath done. When you look to others with their lands and gold, think that Christ has promised you his wealth untold. Count your many blessings money cannot buy, your reward in heaven nor your home on high. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God hath done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God hath done. So amid the conflict, whether great or small, do not be discouraged, God is over all. Count your many blessings, angels will attend, help and comfort give you to your journey's end. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God hath done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God hath done.
Blue skies and rainbows and sunbeams from heaven are what I can see. When my Lord is living in me, I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part. Tall mountains, green valleys, the beauty that surrounds me, all makes me aware of the one who made it all. I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part. Green grass and flowers, the blooming in springtime, all works of the Master I live for each day. I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part. I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus, for it is the power that saves us today. I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part.
Have thine own way, O day. Whiter than snow, Lord, wash me just now, as in thy presence humbly I bow. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Hold o'er my being absolute sway. Fill with thy spirit till all shall see Christ only always living in me.
If the skies above you are gray, you are feeling so blue. If your cares and burdens seem great all the whole day through, there's a silver lining that shines in the heavenly land. Look by faith and see it, my friend. Trust in His promises, friend. Sing and be happy, press along to the goal. Trust in Him who leads you, He will keep your soul. Let all know where you be faithful, look to Jesus and Him and pray. Lift your voice and praise Him in song. Sing and be happy today. Often we are troubled and tired, sick with sorrow and pain. There are others living in sin, blessed with earthly gain. Take new courage, we cannot tell what tomorrow may bring. When the dark clouds vanish away, then your heart truly can sing. Sing and be happy, press along to the goal. Trust in Him who leads you, He will keep your soul. Let all know where you be faithful, look to Jesus and Him and pray. Lift your voice and praise Him in song. Sing and be happy today. Oft we fail to see the rainbow up in heaven's fair sky, when it seems the fortunes of earth frown and pass us by. There are things we know that are worth more than silver and gold, if we hope and trust Him each day, we shall have pleasure untold.
Hey, good morning. Well, good morning, everyone. It is yet again good to see each of you. Some of you I had the pleasure of seeing on yesterday at the Stop the Bleed event that we had. So very grateful that we were able to do that. And if you get a chance, please thank Jennifer and Jill and Robert for putting that on. That is a tremendous effort that they put on. Very necessary, very informative, not just in case something happens here, but in your everyday life. Very helpful. And as Robert reiterated several times, they try to have this, every 6 months or so. And so I want to encourage you to come back to that event every time we get a chance. So again, if you get a chance, please encourage them and bless them, because that is a tremendous work that they did. All right. In 1885, a gentleman named Carl Benz, B-E-N-Z, invented the first vehicle that was powered by an internal combustion engine. Or in other words, he created an automobile. When he created that automobile, could you imagine that his efforts would lead to other inventions, such as clickers that don't work, Well, I checked it a second ago, and I'm rebooting. By the way, rebooting is like the answer to almost everything, but not today. No, sir. We'll try it one more time. All right, so it spawned many, many more inventions. Anyone, what's another invention that was created because of the automobile? There we go. How about that? Because of the automobile, later someone had to invent the traffic light. What about someone had to say, okay, you can only go so fast, right? Those signs exist in Texas. Yes, they do. And if they don't exist, they don't stop people from going just that fast, right? Yes. Can you imagine how much trust it takes when you come to an intersection? You may not think about it, but you trust that when it turns green, that the person on the other side of the intersection is going to stop. Or when it says, yes, you can walk, that everyone else has stopped. That when you're traveling down the highway at 85 miles an hour, that everyone is going to stay in their lane. That they are not going to be distracted, whether it's changing the radio station, which nowadays is all digital. You got to touch a screen for it. They're not on their cell phones. They're not texting. They're not arguing. But they're focused on the task of driving, because their safety and the safety of multiple other people is dependent upon it. And most of us came here in a vehicle today. And some of us at speeds like that. But we had full confidence and full assurance that everyone was going to be doing their part. It's a lot of trust that we place in our fellow human being. What I want to do today is talk about the trust that we need to place in God. The trust that He is calling us to. Just how we get in a car and we think nothing of it. That internal combustion engine is gas, which is highly flammable, exploding in a controlled environment hundreds of times per minute, thousands of times per minute. I'm not sure. Yeah, thousands RPMs per minute. There you go. But yet we trust that while we're sitting on a tank of gas, traveling at these high speeds, everything is going to work as it should. And God is asking us to have that same level of belief and trust in Him. And just for a little while, what I want to do is encourage us to not only have that belief up here, but I want to encourage us to translate that belief into action. That not only will I believe that it's okay for me to travel down the highway, but I will actually get in my car and venture down that highway and exercise that trust. That's what I'd like for us to focus in on today, okay? Let's have a word of prayer, and then let's jump into it. God of all grace, we simply say thank you. We thank you for last night and you allowing us to go to sleep, and for waking us up this morning. And for most of us, we actually had a roof over our head, and while the temperature is starting to drop a little bit, it was still comfortable in our dwelling place. For all of these blessings, we say thank you. We ask a blessing on those who may not have enjoyed the same blessings, that are those that that do not have homes, that do not have warm clothing, and just they're exposed to the elements. And so we ask a blessing upon them. And we thank you for this time that you've given us right now, that we can come together, that we can open up your word, and that we can allow you to pour into us, and that you can challenge us, that you can improve us, and that we'll be a little bit better prepared for life as we live it. Lord, as we walk out of here, we're going to have some successes, and that's all due to you. But we're going to have some failures, and that's all due to me. And for that, we're sorry. And we thank you for Jesus and for his blood that continuously cleanses us, and that so long as we walk in the light, we have a confidence and an assurance that one day we will be reunited with you. Thank you. And it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. I want you to meet me in John chapter 11. John chapter 11, and what I'd like to do is spend our lesson looking at Lazarus. Lazarus, the one who died and who Jesus brought back to life. And if you'll recall, Lazarus, his sisters, Mary and Martha, they're really good friends of Jesus. And there's going to be an event that they live through. And it's an event that will challenge them to believe a little bit more in Jesus. Now, while you're getting there, I want to make sure we're aware of where we are in the Bible story. So Jesus is on the scene, so that places us in the New Testament. He's actually in his third year of ministry. And he's just left Jerusalem shortly, I don't know how recently, but probably a couple of weeks earlier. And he said, I and the Father are one. And for that, the religious leaders were incensed. And they picked up stones and they tried to stone him. This is all in chapter 10. So the last story before you get to chapter 11 is the story I'm telling you about. And Jesus escapes, but they wanted to kill him. And so now he leaves and he goes to Bethany. Bethany's probably like 2-hour walk or so from Jerusalem. And that's where Lazarus and everyone lives. And this story takes place, right? And turns out we're probably going to get to read almost all the chapters, so that's a good thing, all right? But I want you to meet me in verse number 38. Verse number 38 is where we'll start. John chapter 11, verse number 38. This is after Lazarus has died. So a lot of the story is taking place. We're going to go back, but I wanted to start here. Verse 38. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he's been dead 4 days. And Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you've heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. When he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to him, unbind him and let him go. I want to jump back to verse number 39. Jesus said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days. And Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believed, you will see the glory of God? I believe that statement, that last statement that Jesus made, is true for us today. That if you and I truly believe, we will see the glory of God. And I don't just believe that we will see the glory of God on Judgment Day, but I believe we will see the glory of God every day in our lives. And not only in our lives, but in the lives of the people that we touch. But it is fully dependent on if I believe. And so, if you will, because we're continuing our study on stones and what they symbolize when we find in the text. And what I present to you today is that the stone in this text, the stone that is in front of Lazarus' grave, it represents for us a choice. It is a question that is put in front of us, a decision that we have to make. And that question, that choice, that decision is, will I put my belief into action? Will I put my mental persuasion, the conviction that I have up here, and I'm working under the assumption that all of us in here are children of God, people who believe that Jesus is the risen Savior, that he is the master of our lives, and that he has command over us. And with that mental persuasion, will I put it into action? Let me ask you a question. What is belief? Anyone? What is belief?
Trust in.
Trust in? A truth? Conviction?
Something you believe in.
Something you believe in? The dictionary says it's to accept something as true. I heard true. Something that you're sure of as the truth. I heard truth. These are all things that how we define it. And if you look at how it's defined, it's really going to what's up here. But I want to reiterate what I was saying earlier. When we talk as Christians, it is not simply what's in between our ears, but it's also the actions that we take. When looking at a biblical dictionary, it says to believe to the extent of complete trust and reliance. It goes beyond what's here. Reliance means there's a dependency. It means something. And furthermore, I say it is an active acceptance of something that is true. I can believe that this chair or this bench will support me. But it doesn't mean that I've actually put my belief into action. I can stand here all day until my legs get tired, my back starts getting sore. But until I exercise that, the bench is of no use to me. And our belief is of no use to you or to the rest of this world until you put it into action. For many of us, we got to ask a question. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? And they ask us that question before what happened? Before you actively allowed yourself to be baptized. You took action. And that is what is required for each and every one of us. But sometimes we don't actually act on our belief. And so let's deal with that just for a few minutes. What are some things that prevent us from having an active belief? Anyone?
Not seeing, like things not coming to fruition that you pray for or think about. You know, things may turn left.
Yes.
You want it to turn right. And even though you pray about it, it doesn't. So you don't think God is there for you.
There you go. Yes.
The belief is not going to be there because you don't feel or see
Yes.
what you feel
Yep.
here and
We talked about this at...
that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. We talked about this at nauseum in our small groups last Sunday, and I think probably the Sunday before that, right? Just the fact that sometimes when I pray, the answer is no. And that can plant seeds of doubt. And so sometimes us having an active belief is because, you know what, I just haven't seen it in my life. What else? What are some other reasons why we may not have an active faith?
Wasn't brought up in the Word.
Wasn't brought up in the Word, so you just pretty much don't have a faith at all. Anyone else? I heard fear, and then
Someone contradicts what you say.
oh, there's someone who contradicts what you say. And so now you have this opposing force. And let's just be clear about it. No one wants to be wrong, nor do we want to be ridiculed. There's so many situations where that actually happens for us, right? Where we run into these situations where we just don't have courage. It talked about the fact that there were many leaders who believed in Jesus, but they wouldn't confess him. John chapter 12, verses 42 and 43. Nevertheless, many of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees did not confess it, so that they would not be put out the synagogue. For they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. That being opposed, and what does that mean? If I'm contradicted, will I be ridiculed? Will I be cast out of my current position, my current social standing? These are all things that can prevent us from having an active faith. What about just doubt? Doubt in self. Well, they're so talented, they can do that. Oh, Gary's so comfortable being up here and speaking, and I'm not a teacher. I don't have that skill. I'm going to tell you, there's no way, ask her, there's no way around the age 24, 25 that anyone that knew me thought that I would be standing here. And there's a number of reasons for that. But one of them would just simply be, he's been in the church his whole life, but I don't think he knows his Bible like that. Furthermore, who's actually going to listen to him? Sometimes doubt creeps in. I want to talk a little bit, just briefly, we're going to detour, just about the parable of the talent. If you remember the parable of the talent, the master has 3 servants, and to one he gives 5, the other he gives 3, and to another he gives 1 talent. And the first 2, they go out and they put it to work. They are active. They have a belief in self, a belief in purpose, and they double what they were first entrusted with. The last one, well, not so much. Listen to what the last servant says when the master confronts him. Matthew 25, starting verse number 24. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward saying, Master, now I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Now, here's that fear popping up again. And I think that his fear is, I'm going to fail. You're expecting something from me. You gave me this and you're expecting more. And you got to understand that the 5 talent, he's a talented person. And 3 talent, well, we all know he's talented. But me, it's just me. And so I didn't want to lose what you gave me. So here you go. 26, but the master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant. That word wicked pretty much means not just bad, but worthless. You are of no value to the master because you know he's expecting that you're going to take what he's entrusted to you and multiply it. And you didn't do it, which means the purpose I gave you, you didn't accomplish, which means I'm wasting my time here. Yes.
I've often wondered if the reason why the master, in this parable, only gave him 1 talent was he knew that he was a weaker person, and maybe he knew the man didn't think much of himself, but perhaps he thought, maybe if I just give him something that's manageable and 1, maybe he can do something with that. I mean, he could have given him nothing, but he gave him 1.
Yes.
To show that maybe if I show a little faith in him, he can do something with that.
Yeah. So the thing is, and the comment was, I wonder if the reason he only gave him 1 is because he knew that was his limit. And I think the answer to that is yes. I think today all of us have a limit, but that is not necessarily your limit tomorrow. Look at what the text says in verse number 27. The master says, you ought to have invested the money with the bankers. And at my coming, I should have received what was mine with interest. There is no hint at all that if you put the money with the bankers that you're going to lose money. As a matter of fact, it says, if you had done that, I'd at least got interest. The point being, what I've entrusted to you, if you actually act on it, if you actually go and use it, we're all going to be better off. And the talent that you have is going to increase. No one thought, at least I didn't, that I'd be a Bible class teacher. And there are so many people off in here at some point in their life did not think this is who they would be. And you have examples of that in your life, even if it's just your personal secular life, of where there's no way you thought you would be this in your life. And you are, and you're good at it. And the same is true about your spiritual gifts. They have been entrusted to you for a purpose. And the expectation is that when you come to that stone, that you don't just stand there, but that you take action on it. Because if you do, he will multiply it. Some a lot, some a little less, some maybe not so much, but it doesn't matter. Because who you are, he is going to improve upon. And if you just allow time, what do they say about compounding interest? A little becomes a lot with God. The loaves and the fishes, just bring me what you got and let me handle the rest, is what God is essentially saying. But let's go back to our text. Let's talk about Mary and Martha. The passage we read, they're at the door, at the tomb, and God is asking them to believe. I want you to know that Mary and Martha had belief. They had faith. If you go back to the beginning, John 11, verse number 1, it says, now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and his sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. They sent for Jesus because they believed in him. They didn't say, Lazarus is not looking good. I know Jesus can heal him, but he's not here, so we'll roll the dice. No, someone go find Jesus and tell him. And it's not just that. Even after he dies, Lazarus dies, and Jesus comes to them. Notice their response when they talk to Jesus. This is Martha's response, starting in verse number 17. Now, when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him. And Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. She has belief. She even has a little bit more. Listen to this. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. This is belief in action. Notice her sister. Drop down to verse 28. When she said this is Martha, she went and called her sister Mary in private. So if you'll recall, they were together. Martha heard that Jesus was here. Martha ran out and had that conversation with Jesus. They have a conversation, and apparently Jesus said, hey, go get Mary. So this is her going and getting Mary. And called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now, Jesus had not come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in her house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now, when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying the same thing that Martha said. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. This is active belief. And very quickly, what are a few signs in our life that we have active belief? What's a few things that might indicate that we have active belief in our life? I'm sorry, someone was saying so. Oh.
The things that we do in our life.
Yeah, such as the things that we do in our life, such as caring for other people, being here,
Praying.
the prayers that we do, sharing with others our belief. There are any number of things that we can do to demonstrate our faith. And what I'm challenging us to do is actually consider those things. What are the things that I'm doing in my life that is demonstrating the fact that I believe? It's not just up here, but it's actually in my actions. And the truth is, someone can see it. Someone can actually see it. And it can be as simple as when I'm at work and I sit down at the lunch table, they saw me bow my head. That's a simple indicator. And who knows where that takes a conversation? It could be as simple as you ask someone how they're doing, they tell you, and you say, I'm going to pray for you. And you either right then and there pray for them, or these things right here, you just add it to your prayer list. Those are things that show others and also yourself that you have an active belief. So Mary and Martha have an active belief, but yet they're at the tombstone. And Jesus is saying that I'm doing this so that you'll believe. So the tombstone is Jesus asking Mary and Martha to go even deeper. Many of us have active belief in some way, shape, or form, and yet Jesus is still calling us to a deeper belief, a deeper faith. And sometimes going deeper is painful. I'm sure this whole event has been painful. Lazarus was sick. He didn't immediately die. That's painful. Then he dies, and he's been in the grave 4 days. Painful. They're still weeping, still crying. I want you to notice verse number 5. This is before Lazarus dies. It says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And because he loved them, look at verse number 6. So, when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer? I'm sorry. That's not what I was expecting to read. So this caught me off guard. I'm reading it up. What? So when he heard that he was ill, he stayed 2 days longer? Jesus' love is what's pushing them deeper in their faith. And without this situation that's happening in their life, they won't get there. And it's not just Mary and Martha. The disciples, verse number 11. After saying these things, he said to them, the disciples, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awake him. And the disciples said to him, Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he will recover. Now, Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought he meant he was taking a rest and sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. Now, just so we're clear, this is the 3rd year of his ministry. They themselves have cast out demons. They have healed people. We've already said that Jesus is the Son of God. And Jesus is saying, I need you to believe. I need you to go deeper in your belief, is what Jesus is trying to communicate to them. At the tombstone, at the grave, This is the conversation Jesus has with Martha. Now remember, Martha already said, if you had been here, my brother would have lived. But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, he will give you. That's her level of faith. That's her belief. But standing there at the tomb, this is what happens. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had not been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. I just misspoke. I'm sorry. This is the conversation that's happening outside of the grave. I'm sorry. But it's happening before Jesus gets into town. Your brother will rise again. And Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And she said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. She says, I believe in you. You get to the grave. Jesus said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time, there will be an odor, for he's been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? You know, one of the other reasons why sometimes we don't have active faith is because we don't have big enough imaginations. She believed that Jesus could heal Lazarus, but it never entered her consciousness that he would raise him from the dead. So when he says, hey, remove the stone, why would I do that? He stinks. And I think sometimes what ends up happening, at least in my life, is I limit God. I put him in a box and I say, okay, this is how powerful he is. And so I don't venture in some places that he probably is asking me to go. And it's first, I got to, number one, get over my own fear. And then number two, get comfortable that maybe I do have the skills, right? Because he's not just asking me to go out there and fail, but then I've put him in a box. And I want you to know that we can limit God. It is possible to limit God. Not saying that God is somehow not powerful enough to overcome me, but by how he demonstrates and how he acts in the world, there are certain things that he has relegated to me or entrusted to me as a responsibility. And how I act will impact others. As you think about it, in this particular passage, I need to move forward just a little bit because I'm going to run out of time if I don't. But I want to jump to Matthew 13. This is when Jesus is back in his hometown. He says, the text says in verse number 58, he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. There are many people that could have believed in God because they would have seen. There are many people who might have been healed, but could not be healed. The text says because they just didn't believe in him. Think about the situation where Mary and Martha are at the tomb. Who would not be blessed if they don't remove the stone? Let's just play this out. They don't remove the stone. Who are some people in this story that don't get blessed? The onlookers don't get blessed. Who else? Mary and Martha don't get their brother back. Anyone else? Lazarus doesn't get blessed because he's still in the grave. My faith has the ability to impact all of you and this entire world. Yes?
And the whole crux of this whole passage is that God might be glorified.
Mm-hmm.
So if none of this happens, then glorifying
The
That's the whole purpose.
Very good. The comment was, the whole purpose of this passage is to glorify God. We're going to enable some people to believe a little deeper, and we're going to glorify God, and God is not glorified. I have the ability to limit God. And when I limit God, not only am I potentially allowing you to miss a blessing, but then I'm not glorifying God. 10 people came back with what the Bible calls an evil report. And because of that, 2.5 million Israelites had to spend 40 more years in the desert. 10 people didn't believe. And so the question has to be asked, what stone is God asking me to move? What stone in my life is he saying, David, you need to move that? And until I move it, someone's not going to be resurrected. And some people aren't going to believe. And I'd like for you to ask yourself, what stone is God asking you to move in your life so that you can be a blessing to someone else, so that you can glorify God? What task in your life is he calling you to? I tell you, I don't do this full time. This is not my job, right? And so when I am privileged enough to teach, what you end up getting are lessons that have had a chance to beat up on me. This lesson is actually, I actually started, really putting it together like 2 weeks ago, and I had to put it down because it was body blows. Can I tell you where I think I'm not moving a stone? I really like doing this. I like teaching. I like Bible study. I'm kind of a nerd at this stuff. I like it. And so about August of last year, I kind of made a decision that there's this technology out there to where you can YouTube, podcast, upload to Spotify. My wife's making a face right now because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, you know what? I should start doing that. You never know. Maybe it'll help someone. And so I put together a plan, and I said, okay, by the end of the year, I'll figure out what kind of format I want to do, right? Kind of get there. And then somewhere around March, I'll have, kind of done a few test videos or whatnot, and really kind of, so it won't look like I'm just now starting out. And so I did. November, December-ish of last year, kind of got there. And then first of the year, started doing some videos and kind of figuring out how this stuff works, and with the plan of, all right, somewhere around April, March, I'm going to go live. I'm not live, and I got every excuse in the book. And I'm being transparent with you because there's probably somebody I could have helped at some point, but it's either fear or uncomfortable, like, I'm going to be on the internet, people will see me. What if people that know me see me but don't agree with my position? What if I'm wrong and the people here think that, I'm a heretic or I'm teaching incorrectly? And any number of reasons why, you know what, David, you probably shouldn't do it. And so guess what I did? I buried it. And that stone is still in front of the tomb. And I imagine Jesus just kind of sitting there like, didn't I tell you if you believe, you see the glory of God? And so now, remember I said these lessons be beating me up? So I had a decision to make. Was I going to keep this, thought of mine and this maybe calling, I don't know, to me and a few people in my family, or was I going to be transparent and open it up so that I could be held accountable by everybody in the room? Because maybe, just maybe, that'll be the way that the stone gets moved. And so I say, pray for me. Ask me about it. Hold me accountable. And if I make an excuse, call me out. Hey, Birdow, that sounds like a little bit of an excuse to me. And it's okay. I have big shoulders. I can take it. But hopefully what you'll end up doing is putting me in the right position to where I'll move forward. And who knows? Maybe it comes to nothing. But who knows? Maybe we'll gain some interest off of it. Or maybe I'm the guy who actually went from 3 to 6, 5 to 10. I don't know. But that's kind of how I see my stone. What about yours? The text says that the people that were there with Mary came with Jesus. When Jesus was weeping, they said, wow, see how he loved them. But some of them said, hey, couldn't this guy have prevented him from dying? And if you jump to, I'm just going to go off my notes. If you jump to the last verse, actually, I think it's here. I can't read my notes right now. Verse 45. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary had seen what he did and believed. But it wasn't just that they believed. There were some people there that saw it. And by now, there is an edict from the rulers that, hey, if you see Jesus or if you hear him, you need to report him. And so some of the people there, verse 46, went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. The word is spreading. Because they removed the stone, the word is spreading. And listen to what they say is the power of this belief and Jesus doing his works. Verse 47, so the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, what are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him. Church, I'm here to tell you, if we let Jesus go on in our lives, if we let him tell us to open a door and we open that door and let him work his power, the text says everyone will believe. We pray for this nation and we say, let it turn back to Christian nation. Perfect. Belief is not enough. If we open the door, if we let him go on like this, restoration of the world will happen. And so the question on the table, David, what stone is he asking you to move? Paul said, now unto him who is able to do far more than I can imagine. That's who's asking us to open the door. You want us to win this community? We can. We most certainly can. It is not at all impossible. It is not beyond the realm of our imagination. It can be done, and it starts with move that stone. Western Hills, there's probably a few stones we need to remove. David, there's certainly a few stones that you need to remove. I hope this lesson is a blessing for you. I know it was super challenging for me. Yes?
3 comments. The passage that talks about those, Jesus wouldn't go to a place because they wouldn't believe in him.
He couldn't do many signs because they didn't believe.
And so in our world today, we have people of faith, and we have people that are in between, and we have people that are without faith. And people with faith, they go through the world trying to find evidence
Okay.